Pressure originally hit theaters on May 29, 2026, a World War II drama starring Andrew Scott playing a meteorologist, Brendan Fraser plays General Dwight D. Eisenhower, and the entire film is 100 minutes of men arguing about the weather. It opened 7th at the box office when it hit theaters. The box office got this one wrong, my friends, and the movie-going public missed a great movie. Pressure is one of my favorite films of the year, and I wish I saw it sooner. I'm the real-life fake wizard, and this is a fake wizard's review of Pressure. If this video brings you any value, hit the subscribe button, as we're posting lots of reviews every single week. June 2nd, 1944, 61 hours before the scheduled launch of Operation Overlord, Eisenhower summons Scottish meteorologist James Stagg to Southwick House and installs him as Chief Meteorological Officer for the Allied Command. Stagg reads live barometric data pulled from observation stations across the Atlantic, and the data shows 2 low-pressure storms that would intersect with the attack. Colonel Irving Crick, the American celebrity forecaster running the other half of the weather team, reads decades of historical patterns and sees clear skies on June 5th. One of these 2 men would be wrong. 160,000 men board the boats either way, and Eisenhower has to choose between launching the mission, not launching the mission, and what are the ramifications either way, while also still being haunted by the failed exercise Tiger that resulted in the deaths of more than 700 Americans 6 weeks earlier. This is a war film where the direct antagonist is the weather. An interesting perspective, of course, especially when considering all the possible stories that could be told or have been told already about D-Day. Something that might easily be overlooked here is the weather, but there was certainly a story there to be told. Now, this movie kind of snuck under the radar for me as it released at the beginning of the summer, and I did have the chance to see it with some friends, but my friends hadn't seen Sheep Detectives yet, so I made sure we all saw Sheep Detectives. That movie is a 9 or 10 out of 10, but you know what? I think Pressure here might just be too. This weather war movie is on the top of my best of 2026 list for now. Pressure is led by Andrew Scott playing James Stagg. Many of you might remember from Sherlock or Fleabag, or, and this is really why I'm doing an introduction for him, have you seen his Hamlet performance? There's this clip that floats around on TikTok and Instagram every now and then of him doing the to be or not to be speech, and it's easily my favorite one of the Hamlets. But anyway, Scott carries this movie playing a serious, unfriendly kind of tough guy who knows the data. He knows what he's doing, and he's not going to people please. Stagg is a meteorologist with the job of determining whether the weather will be suitable for an attack on Normandy Beach on June 5th. All the generals want to trigger the invasion, but if they attack in a storm, they'll surely lose. Stagg determines there will be a storm and then holds his position that it would be wrong to invade, to the chagrin of all the military generals, including Brendan Fraser's Eisenhower. Scott's performance has a kind of stoic seriousness that we seldom get from movies nowadays. Whether it be the script or directing reasons or whatever the case may be, we just don't get that kind of character anymore. The whole world is essentially sitting on Stagg's shoulders as much as it is Eisenhower's. Thousands of lives are in their hands, and other generals are saying launch the attack. But he knows that there are storms coming, and compound this by the discovery that there are some external conflicts that I'm not gonna spoil here, and we find a man who, in most modern-day written scripts and stories, would crumble under that pressure. Most movies today would see the protagonist have a moment of emotional collapse under the weight of it all. And while we know that Stagg is suffering, and he is suffering, there's never that moment where he's seen as a weak man. You know, like, we, the audience, are only ever rooting for him because we also believe that he's right. I think that's it. I think most movies would default to allowing this man to appear weak under the weight of the pressure. But it's like a fine line, right? I wish I had a better way to describe it, but there are a lot of movies now that have even less stakes than anything Stagg is wrestling with in this film, and the protagonist will just weep like a child or need to vent about their emotions. Here, we find a guy with the literal fate of the world on his shoulders. If he caves to the general's pressure and he's right, he's forever a failure. If he's wrong about there being a storm at the general's postpone, it could give the enemy an upper hand, the word could get out, he still would be a failure. But there's a level of realism with this film. In the moment, in real life, leaders don't buckle under that pressure. They've got a job to do, despite any kind of pressure and/or doubts. And for that, Scott crushed this role. And I also think the writing is pretty good. Brendan Fraser's Eisenhower matches this with his own pressures. Eisenhower is wrestling with the growing body counts of death and the recent failed test run that got lots of men killed. He's anxious to deploy on the 5th, and this will lead to him and Scott butting heads throughout the film. So yeah, you've got a good cast and a conflict that makes for a good story, but does that mean it would be a good movie? Consider this. This story is originally written for a stage play. I think the best movies and shows and video games all have a buy-in moment where you, as the viewer, are brought in and then immersed in the experience. It doesn't always happen right away. Sometimes it takes a few minutes or a few episodes in television. Sometimes it's 3 or 4 hours in a video game, maybe longer. For Pressure, this moment lands in Act 2, where Stagg gets a phone call about external conflicts, the ones I mentioned earlier here. Until then, the film was interesting, but you weren't fully immersed. And after this moment happens, you're locked in. Not all pieces of media are smart enough to pull off a buy-in moment. Heck, most pieces of media don't have one at all. Only the best can do this and then do it right, and Pressure nails it. And that's kind of crazy. It's like, hey, we're doing a movie about D-Day. Okay, well, that's a well-known and well-discussed chapter in human history. There are already lots of movies about it and about WW2. How are you gonna tell another story in that? Oh, that's how. Okay. Oh, I got you. Let's go, man. Good choice. I don't know if it's historically accurate, but as a movie, this is very good. And for that reason, I've kind of tried to avoid spoilers, because you know D-Day happens and you know that America ends up winning. So the finer parts that make up this movie, I don't want to ruin. I'll just say go see it. But just a little bit of criticism here, however. Eisenhower's secretary, played by Kerry Condon, is meant to be the leading actress role, because they needed to have a leading actress role. But in a movie like this, and set in that time period, the very specific thing that this secretary says and does seems like an impossibility. I don't find it believable that Eisenhower's secretary was addressing him like this. Maybe bluntly would be the word, and at the time when he's wrestling with the future of the entire world, I just don't buy it. It kind of ruins the immersion I was talking about before. I cannot take her character seriously at all for what the film's writing wanted her to be, and because of that, it's not a 10 out of 10. Pressure is on digital now after a sadly short theatrical run. This is an excellent drama that knows when and how to reel the audience in to make sure they put their phones down long enough to experience and care about an ending that technically we already know what happens. Pressure is a 9 out of 10, and I highly recommend seeing it. And if this review brought you any value, smash the subscribe button, as we're posting lots of new reviews every single week. Until next time, create, innovate, inspire, and cancel Disney+. Bye-bye.